What is going on, everyone? We're back for another episode of the Nic Cage Fight podcast, where we search for meaning in the strangest place possible. Limited releases, low budget, and sometimes blockbuster Nic Cage movies. We do this because we're just a couple of goofy guys filling time. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always by my stalwart companions, Ryan and Rich. How are we feeling tonight?
Pretty goofy.
There you go.
Hate giants.
I hate giants and love fire randomly for 7 seconds and then never mention it again.
There you go. If that isn't enough of a clue for you, we are here to talk
It's not enough of a clue. Like 7 people saw this movie.
This is correct. And we're trying to spare other people, I think. But we are here to talk about The Humanity Bureau, a 2017 R-rated film that Nic Cage happens to star in. It clocks in at a clean hour and 35 minutes. I liked that.
It felt longer.
It did feel a little bit longer.
It felt like a 2-hour movie.
It also felt like it didn't get all of the things it needed to say out there. But let's jump right into housekeeping.
It had the time. There was a real Slim Shady joke in this movie, like 17 years after that album was released.
Yeah, it kept blowing my mind going back and seeing that this was released in 2017.
This was a movie that I think they were hoping that like 50-year-olds would see. Because,
it's got geezer teaser energy.
I disagree. I disagree. I want to see what you guys think about this. I think it was trying to cash in really early on the political divide. I think they thought they were going to have a huge lib audience for this.
You know what? This is actually a really good segue, because one of the things that I did was I looked up like the Rotten Tomatoes reviews and I have to find the ones, because there are ones of libs saying like, yeah, this is what's going to happen under Trump, and then like conservatives being like, yeah, this is what you libs want, a bunch of concentration camps.
It's weird because it's a Canadian movie. It's not made by Americans. Like, there's American actors in it, but it wasn't written or directed by an American.
Right.
See, that makes me so much more judgmental, because not for nothing, I do not have a lot of personal pride in the place that I am from, country-wise, state-wise.
Oh, I lied. The director is American. Okay. The writer was Canadian, but the director was American.
Gotcha. So, state-wise, if you have something bad to say about Jersey, just don't come here. That'll make us all of us happy. But country-wise, the only time I get any stirring of patriotic fervor in my cold, dead heart is when somebody from another country wants to say some shit about us.
No, I'm fine with that. I kind of get on board around World Cup and then like realize that like soccer is like full of bad people doing bad things.
Most popular sport in the world.
Not the sport, but like, you know, it was held in Qatar this year, which
not
really a bastion of human rights.
Well, I mean, and it's the same thing as the fucking Olympic stadiums. Like, just human suffering is poured into making these massive structures that cost so much money and are abandoned as soon as everything is finished. Terrible stuff.
But shout out to like one of the greatest soccer matches ever played this year. Like that World Cup. I know you all aren't sports ball people, but like that final match, Jesus fucking Christ.
It came down to a shootout.
No, dude. All right. So like fucking Argentina went up by 2 in like the first 20 minutes. There's 10 minutes left in the game. Normally in soccer, that's a death stroke. That's like, you're not coming back 2 goals.
Yeah, nothing happens in soccer.
France scores
30-minute
2 goals.
Increments.
The last goal in injury time. Then in overtime, Argentina takes a 3-2 lead. France comes back and ties it 3-3. This game was fucking nuts. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the France versus Argentina game. I'm here to talk about this insane thing that I saw on Rotten Tomatoes that is full of dog whistles, 2 of which I have never heard of, but they have to be dog whistles.
Oh, this is my wheelhouse. I'll be able to tell you exactly what they're referring to.
So I want to know, before I read this, do you know what Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030 is? I've never heard this, and I'm pretty up on right-wing dog whistles, and this has some other ones in it.
No, I don't. I'm not aware of those, but they sound like the kind of shit a James Bond villain would say when they're about to bomb the UN or some shit.
Yeah, so I just looked this up, so I don't know.
230 was one of them?
2030.
2030. No, maybe I'm not familiar with that one.
Maybe this person typoed, though. Is there an Agenda 230?
230, I think, is the one that people always use it when they're like conservatives are being censored on Twitter, and because of it's not agenda, it's like some section 230. It has to do with legal liability from actions arising from posts on a platform that you own. So the conservatives have misread this as you're not allowed to censor content that is sort of open to the public on a product that you own, but they don't understand it at all. It's all just insurance procedural nonsense for the most part.
All right. And I found Agenda 21, which is, I think this person has taken this grossly out of context. Agenda 21 is a comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the United Nations systems, governments, and major groups in every area in which humans impact on the environment. So it just sounds like, just from looking at this, it sounds like, hey, guys, we should probably stop polluting, and nothing has changed.
This is from 1992.
Yes. So with that in mind, here is the review. Me and my wife really liked, 5 stars, by the way. Me and my wife really liked this movie. It's like a future documentary movie showing what Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030 will do to regular people. This
person doesn't know the definition of documentary.
No. This movie had to be written by somebody who is very familiar with both agendas to the smallest detail. It's a warning to today's people who to vote for, because politicians / globalists that attend the World Economic Forum will make this sci-fi movie. I think they meant to say into a documentary.
Okay, 2030, Agenda 2030 is essentially another resolution to try and wipe out poverty, it looks like.
Okay, I can see where brain rot would
Yeah, this person has a very particular kind of online presence.
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking for the other ones I saw. Oh, okay, here's one. This is a movie that everyone living in the United States should pay attention to! ! Looks like a Trump utopian society where the people he deems undesirable are simply removed from society, reminiscent of another historical dictator. I mean, again, just libs missing the point, I think.
I think it is less a critique of a particular political faction and more possibly a commentary on the economic system, considering we got productivity scores and shit like that. That sounds like capitalism, baby.
It sounds like a Robert Heinlein novel. It sounds like the whole you need to do military service to become a voting citizen in Starship Troopers.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no, I mean, my favorite
God, I would have killed for
movie,
a Verhoeven flick instead of this one.
Oh my God. If this was a Verhoeven flick, we would have seen way more wet ass squib action.
No, my favorite part of the movie is when he talks to the kid and the kid's just like, what about communism?
Yeah,
because that's essentially what he says. It's like, well, what about communism? He's just like, it's good.
That doesn't
theory,
work,
but it doesn't work.
I'm sorry, I remember now, because you're like, I was like, I don't remember the kid saying anything about communism. He's like, well, it's the part where he's like, everybody's got to do their part to help out. He's like, well, shouldn't people with more help out people with less? And he's like, that's a great idea, but that shit don't work.
Yeah. This movie has hams for hands. It can't even hold a gun because of all the ham hands it's got.
All right.
And just real quick, this was my favorite 5-star, which is just Nic Cage versus climate change. Do I even need to see it to give it 5 stars?
This person did not watch the movie.
No, not even a little bit, because this whole climate change thing is pretty clunky.
Yeah. All right. So let's get housekeeping out of the way, because that's
please.
Really, I don't have any experience outside this podcast reviewing movies. I watch movies and I go, that was good or that was bad, based purely on vibes and gut feelings no real classical training here, right? But I have discerned a pattern. And the pattern is when you look at the CV of the writer and director, you can't always tell when it's going to be a good movie, but you can peg pretty good when it's going to be a bad movie.
Oh,
So
yeah.
let's jump in. The director, we got Rob W. King. I've never heard of this individual, and other movies that they have directed, I picked just the movies for this list. I haven't seen a single one of them. They include Distorted, I Heart Regina, and Hungry Hills. But basically, he has a lot of like TV directorial credits and just a handful of movies.
Anything good on the TV credits?
Nope.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, fair.
Usually when there's something good on the TV credits, I like to give it a shout out, but I didn't find anything that was really there was some obscure boys in there, and that was about it. As for the writer, we have a Dave Schultz who wrote 45 RPM, Jet Boy, Anthrax, Rufus, and Considering Love and Other Magic. No familiarity with any of those.
No.
There you go. So, a writer that we're not familiar with, not to say that all of these other movies are bad, but they haven't at least made a splash in the public consciousness that we're connected to. Kind of same thing with the director. So wild card, but prospects aren't looking great here. So let's go on to the cast. We have, starting as always, Nic Cage as Noah Cross, Sarah Lind as Rachel Weller, and she's been in a couple of things. Some you'll recognize and some you definitely won't. She was in a TV show called Edgemont. I'm not familiar. She was in a movie called The Exorcism of Molly Hartley. And if you're a horror junkie like me, there's a bunch of exorcisms of so-and-sos, and only a couple of them sort of rise to any level of watchability. She was in the VHS TV series, and VHS is primarily known as being a horror anthology series of movies. Some are good, some are not so good, but I enjoyed most of them. I've never seen the TV series. She was also in a season of the Fargo television series, which I think I watched the first 2 seasons and sort of fell off, but they were generally good. Was my experience with them.
Hell and yeah, they are. Bruce Campbell plays fucking Ronald Reagan in one season.
I remember I think it was the second season, they had Billy Bob Thornton, and I think Glenn Howerton was in that same season, but they were solid. I just fell off because I don't watch cable television too much, and it didn't pop on any of the streaming services that I spend money on regularly.
Yeah, it's going to get in the way of me watching the same 9 shows over and over.
It's like, should I watch the Fargo TV series or rewatch The Sopranos for the 30th time?
Oh, the
answer is yes.
Yes.
Well, I'm way worse. I'm just like, should I watch Fargo or should I watch The League for the 30th time?
And you got to shout out, she was in Wolf Cop too.
I was going to point out Wolf Cop.
And also a pretty good Western with Brad Pitt called The Assassination of Jesse James by Coward Robert Ford. That movie is great.
Oh, I did see that movie. I missed that on her CV, but I did have Wolf Cop written down. You guys beat me to the punch. But I included it primarily because we got another Wolf Cop alum.
We've got the titular Wolf Cop.
Yeah, Lou Garrow himself, which fucking A+ on the name, guys. Next up, we have Jacob Davies as Lucas Weller. This is the kid. He was in The Tall Man with Jessica Biel, which was a largely forgettable film that I believe was errantly believed to be a sort of Slender Man but real adaptation, and I don't think that ended up being the case.
Wait, what actor are we talking about right now?
Jacob Davies, the kid.
Oh, okay.
He was also in a film called This Means War, another movie called If I Stay, and he was in a handful of episodes of Supernatural. So shout out to the Supernatural fans that are listening. Maybe you recognize this kid. Next up, we have Hugh Dillon as Adam Westinghouse, who I will be referring to because this is how I put him in my notes, because I think they say his name one time, as Agent Baldy. He was in a couple of decent things. He was in the Killing television series, which I actually really enjoyed. He was in a good movie called Wind River, which I also am a fan of. He was in the Expanse TV show.
Ooh, that was a good one too.
I
don't recall who he was, but
he was in the 2017 Twin Peaks television show.
He's pretty okay in the one scene he's in that.
And he's also apparently, or was, I don't know, I don't watch this show, but I know people fucking love it. Yellowstone.
Yeah, I've never seen it, so I can't say anything for it. I was busy looking up the Tall Man, and yeah, it's just a Slender Man ripoff.
I see they said that, and then they did no ripping off, as far as I remember, because I think I watched that. I tried to watch that film and just, but I don't think I succeeded.
Well, it's the same thing. It's like a person who goes around and abducts children, and that's like what Slender Man did. Just don't know how you rip off a copy pasta.
Well, I mean, there were a number of attempts that did it great, and then there were two girls who tried to do it in real life, and that didn't go super well.
Yeah, but the video games were really good and scary, and I played them once, and I won't play them again because I'm a scary baby.
I didn't find them to be very good video games.
I enjoyed it.
Just play Amnesia instead. It's the same ass game, but actually good.
I didn't try the video games. I was always kind of fascinated by Slender Man since it was modern myth making that I think spawned from the Something Awful forums.
Yes.
Either that or like 4chan or some shit like that.
I'm
one of the worst
places. I'm very sure it's Something Awful.
Okay. So yeah, it was an attempt to do some modern myth making, and it actually succeeded. And that kind of collaborative creativity, I think, is kind of cool. Spawned a number of people who did some series, cementing its legitimacy. The most famous I can think of off the top of my head is Marble Hornets. But yeah, relatively interesting. And then, of course, predicated a very terrible, violent crime by a bunch of children. So, this is why we can't have nice things. Anyway. Moving on, the next person we have, I'm not going to lie, I included this person because I like their name. Really nothing else to it. Viselis Shannon plays Agent Porter and also starred in Mighty Ducks 2, the television show 24, and apparently made an appearance on Sons of Anarchy as well.
And he's on one episode of Mantis, the short-lived show that Sam Raimi got off the ground that is absolutely insane. The last episode, he fights a invisible T-Rex.
All right, I might have to check that out.
It's like 6 episodes long. It's about a wheelchair-bound scientist who creates like an exoskeleton supersuit. It's fun. It's worth like the 3 hours that it'll take to watch the whole thing.
That sounds fun. I'm into that. Next up, we have Kurt Max Runt as Adolf Schroeder, who was in Elektra, the 2014 Godzilla, The Day the Earth Stood Still, and Alien versus Predator Requiem, which I don't. They did a lot of Alien versus Predator movies like in a row at some point, and I can't keep track of any of those names in my mind. Is this the one with Adrian Brody? I don't know. Not sure.
Which he has a great line in this movie too that I'm sure we're just going to gloss over because it's so stupid. But he starts talking to them in a German accent and then tells them, "I am German."
Yes, he
and then just launches into a story like, we didn't need that sentence. We knew by your name and your accent that you are indeed German.
In case you couldn't tell, I am German.
Which is funny because I did recognize him from something else where he just plays a German delegate, and that is the Josie and the Pussycats film.
Oh, shit. And then last up, like I promised, Leo Farfard.
Fafard, right? Pronounced like Fafard and the Grey
Fafard.
Fafard.
Yes.
Yeah. Take out an A, add an H, and he's a fantasy hero.
There you go. Who plays the motel clerk and starred in Wolf Cop as Wolf Cop.
He was also in Wolf Cop 2.
Another Wolf Cop.
They made a second one of those?
They did, apparently. I gotta see it.
Okay, so that wraps up housekeeping. As you can see, nothing that really gave me any sort of reassurances going into this film. So I turn it on and I'm like, let's not rush to judgment here. And then the movie opens it up. I literally wrote down every word.
Good, I'm like, because my version was in Italian, so
they put a whole fucking paragraph at the beginning of this film. Which normally you only run into in like historical dramas where they're like, we got to give you some context here because otherwise you're going to be lost. But as soon as the movie starts running, we get treated to the following text on screen, verbatim. In the near future, after economic catastrophe and climate change came famine, the Great Migration, and the Civil War. Society collapsed. Manufacturing and industrial production of food and goods ceased. America built walls around itself and its cities. The government gave sweeping powers to a single agency whose task was to assess and separate those citizens who were deemed a burden to the system. That agency was known as the Humanity Bureau. These are their stories. Bum, bum.
Which we would have gotten all, because like I said, the version that I watched, that was all in Italian, and I'm like, I don't need to know what the fuck this says. You get all of that information from the movie in the first 15 minutes, like from context.
It's better contextually.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a movie made for grandpas, so like you got to put the thing at the beginning because they might completely not pay attention and be like, "What's happening? Why is it all desert?"
Yeah, but it's like for grandpas, but it's also like some weird like lib propaganda too. It's
It does
weird.
talk about piss drinking a lot.
Well, first of all, they really like the piss drinking thing. They go back to that well repeatedly, but
Yeah.
also specifically to what you said, Ryan, it's like, why are they in a desert? They did the best cop out in a post-apocalyptic movie because we open in Nevada, which will look the same regardless of what catastrophe has fallen the rest of the world.
Right,
Nevada will always look like Nevada.
All of the states that they call out by name are states that already looked like that.
Yeah, and they repeatedly say that like nothing grows while there's trees everywhere. Even like I'm not going to complain too much about stuff like that because it's all over the place.
It's like the sci-fi equivalent of you're watching an 80s fantasy movie and it's just dudes in loincloths with swords running around a forest because they couldn't actually get sets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. So basically the opening scene sets up a couple things for us. One, Nic Cage's character, Noah Cross, works for the Humanity Bureau. Two, the Humanity Bureau issues fucking El Caminos in their vehicle pool, which is dope as fuck. And three, they have these kind of futuristic cell phone things. Also, the borders of New America apparently have shrunk because he's driving through Nevada and he gets a warning like, hey, you're leaving the borders of New America. You're on your own.
So I just realized something weird. That is an unfortunate name to name any character in cinema history. It's the same name that what's his face in the most evil character in Chinatown is named Noah Cross. The guy that is the grandfather.
Gotcha. I did not make that connection.
See, I assumed they were just going for a terrible pun, like, you know, Noah who saved the animals and Cross, Jesus nailed to a cross. I just thought,
because he martyrs at the end. Okay.
Double the Bible allegories.
Well, I mean, I didn't even wait till the end. In the first 5 minutes, I'm just like, oh, this dude's going to sacrifice himself for like the good of humanity because like he's got a Bible name and then like Jesus on the cross. I'm like, that's what's going to happen. And then that's what happens.
Even the Wachowskis are like, tone it down. You got to tone down the Bible allegories, man.
Yeah.
So immediately we get a bit of the mental schism in the approach to writing this film. He clearly leaves the border of New America, and we find out he is on a mission to go and review an appeal of somebody who's going to be shipped off to a new colony called New Eden, which is where New America ships unproductive members of society.
Which anybody who has seen played a Fallout game like knows, like, oh, there's gonna be some fucked up shit here.
Always, but also he's outside the border. This guy, why is he their fucking problem?
Because he's drinking his own piss.
Well, it's outside of the border of one of the walled cities, which we never really get to see inside of. Not actually outside the confines of New America, was my understanding of it.
Okay, well, that is a generous reading.
I could have sworn they said you are now
intended.
leaving the border of New America. I could have sworn.
I think that might just be the name of the big sprawl city that, again, we never really see inside of, even though it's the most interesting plot point of the whole damn thing.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
there was a lot of missed opportunity in this movie, and I would have cut this movie a lot of slack if it got into it and added a half hour onto the runtime.
Yes. I didn't hate the world building. I hate that they set it up and just failed to knock it down. like I said to you guys before we started recording, before I had to watch the movie next, I would have said this is the worst kind of movie in that it gets you interested and then squanders that interest. Anyway, Noah shows up, and the guy he's set to interview is this old guy who doesn't have a job, and he's up for resettlement. And it's now apparently the law explicitly that you have to be a productive member of society. So in New America, the only difference between that and Old America is we don't let just the economic system crush you if you're not productive. We actively collect you and send you off for committing the crime of lack of production.
Yeah, we
Kinda
just take
reminds
out
me
the
of,
middleman of homelessness.
It kind of reminds me of Logan's Run. Like, you got the life date renew after you're a certain age. You're no longer considered a productive member of society regardless. So you got to like recharge your hand button thing.
Weren't they also doing this kind in like Soylent Green, where they would make Soylent Green out of unproductive members of society?
Yeah,
Well,
they would just wrangle up the pores in Soylent
two
Green and turn them into
much better
wafers.
movies.
Well, not just that. Soylent Green was also, they started pushing essentially state sponsored and sanctioned euthanasia and turned the old bodies into green bread and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why anyone would name their fucking food company Soylent. That really bothers me.
Literally a thing. That's absurd.
Instead of watching this movie, watch those two movies.
Yeah. So the old guy is incredibly resistant to this resettlement order, and he goes about resisting it with the weirdest, most obvious ploy ever. He's like, yeah, I'm not gonna do anything you say. Excuse me a minute, and goes into his bedroom, shuts the door, and pulls a shotgun out from underneath his mattress before blasting a hole through the door at directly where Agent Noah Cross was sitting.
Which also, I love that he can afford a shotgun and ammunition, but drinks his own piss.
Allegedly. Okay. So,
well, I mean, it's sterile and he likes the taste.
Yeah, there you go. But this is also where we get the first actual allusion to the modern American political discourse that was occurring at the time the movie was made, because this guy has a poster in his bedroom that says "Make America Great," not again, because they would have gotten sued. But so they just, I can't remember, because Trump 100% stole that from a previous American political campaign.
It's like Woodrow Wilson, I think.
I can't remember if again was tacked on to the original one or if it was just "Make America Great" like for the first time. I don't recall. But anyway, so he has that poster. He blasts a hole through his bedroom door with the shotgun. He comes out and the chair is empty.
It was Reagan.
It was Reagan.
It was Reagan.
I don't know why I thought it was Woodrow Wilson. Just he was also a notorious piece of shit. So
had to be fucking Reagan, of course. So the apartment appears empty, and then we get a bit of monologuing from the old guy talking about how he used to mean something, and we flash over a couple things, including a picture of a younger him sitting with Donald Trump. So yeah, those ham hands Ryan mentioned definitely step into the forefront in the first 5 minutes of the film. So a shotgun blast has been fired. So the proprietor of the motel busts through the door and is like, "What the hell are you doing?" And promptly gets shot in the chest with the shotgun wielded by the old man.
And that's all the wolf cop that we get this whole movie.
Yes. At which point, fucking Noah Cross pops up from behind the couch he's been hiding in and just blasts the old guy with his Glock. This is the first of a trend where people get shot when there's somebody else presumably in a position to stop things before that happens, and they just don't do it. Amazing. I don't understand that. Fucking Noah Cross is like, wait until this guy kills some other person and then I'm gonna handle it, because he's gonna be nice and distracted and his bloodlust will have been sated momentarily, giving me the opening I need.
I guess that's what actually went through his head, because it's like, why does he care about this person? It's not his problem.
Yeah,
one less mouth to feed.
Yeah, the Humanity Bureau is not concerned with collateral damage, so much like any other law enforcement agency that we're familiar with. So what comes up next is we get a little background about Noah and sort of how the other side lives, in that he is back at I originally wrote headquarters, but it's his personal apartment, and he's talking to a superior slash colleague who I told you we're referring to as Agent Baldy. And Noah is up for a promotion for how he handled this situation, letting a civilian get capped and shooting an old man between the eyes. Apparently, the old dead guy used to be the governor of Colorado. And there is an allusion to the fact that there was some sort of radiation fallout. Can only assume from the American Civil War because they do not specify.
I was under the impression it was due to nuclear power plants failing over time because something like the water wasn't fucking clean enough or some bullshit.
I think the intent was to allude that the American Civil War used nukes on like home ground, because I understand where you got that idea, because an old nuclear power plant comes into play, but it doesn't hold up. Like the reasons that you suggested actually don't hold up specifically in that scenario. So we get, and we'll get there when we get to the second part of the film.
Yeah, because there's a lot.
There's a lot
going
to
on.
get through. But you know what else there's a lot of? Products.
I was
And
going to say
services?
our Patreon content, because we got to record some of that.
We do.
At this point, like, I just want to watch The Wrestler to get this taste out of my mouth.
Palate cleanser. We need it.
Yeah, but I guess also products, and I don't know, whatever they throw up, unless it's, what are we anti? The city of Lancaster, just the entire city of Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
No, there's some good people and good businesses out there. Just avoid the Amish shit. It's kitschy and overpriced, and most of it is just trucked in, mass-produced goods anyway. And everything that's homemade is $900 or more.
Yeah, they make some good food. I mean, I will say that. I had some Amish ice cream. Shit was good.
Yo, that's not actually made by them. They buy that shit trucked in, like you were saying, from
God
fucking
damn
frozen
it.
Yep.
food
God
companies.
damn.
Yeah, that's more than likely Schwann's home delivery food that you had. That was the ice cream.
Yup. And one of the reasons why I have my beef with the Amish is the big Amish market that I went to that my fiance was starstruck by. She's like, look, we're walking through the food section. It's like, they have an Amish like coffee thing. We should get coffee beans. I was like, coffee beans don't fucking grow in Pennsylvania. Yeah, these are not Amish.
They might be roasted by the Amish, but there's no way they're growing them out in PA. Legitimately, the only Amish food I'll co-sign on is their soft pretzels are pretty good, because those are actually usually made by them.
There you go. And
Right.
chalk that up to PA water. I mean, just saying.
All right, look, long story short, here's products, and fuck Lancaster.
And ice.
All right, we're back. You all need to learn how to drive and not have horse and buggies too.
Yeah. I don't know. Horses are like, it's interesting, but I mean, you're just jamming up traffic at a certain point.
Yeah, like, it's fine. You use electricity. Like, your horse and buggy is electric half the time. Because you'll see these fucking people. God, that sounded not great. That sounded not great.
Cut his mic. Rein it in.
There were a lot of parentheses there.
That's getting muted.
Fix it in post. You got to fix it in post.
Got to. But like, you'll see a buggy without a horse, like, just moving, and you're like, what the fuck is this? And they're using electricity.
I have not seen that. So
It's a thing. It's a thing.
It's another thing I have to keep an eye out for. Meanwhile, we last left Noah getting back on the job. Oh, real quick about his apartment. He has a bunch of like completely priceless, absurd nonsense in his fucking apartment, including like a Monet painting just sort of hanging that he throws a fly fishing reel into, like hooks it, and nobody bats an eye. So like, I get what they're going for, but they don't develop this any further.
As a matter of
all.
fact, they take a big step back. I'm going to jump ahead in the movie a little bit because it's a very minor scene when they're like trading cars and they're negotiating things. And the woman's like, yeah, why don't you throw in that fancy watch? And I'm like, look at what they're bartering. They're bartering water and beans. And she wants a gold Rolex. For what reason? You can't eat it.
Yeah, they have not figured out their own post-apocalyptic sort of economy at all. But yeah, I figured I'd throw that in because shit's going to get weirder as we go through it. but then we get to the catalyst essentially of the events of the film, in that Noah goes to do a deportation review of the Weller household. The Weller household is made up of a mother and son, and nobody else, and they live on this abandoned ranch slash farm. They insist on calling it a farm while reminding us that nothing grows, like over and over and over again. And they're the mother and son are sort of treating this as like a visit from like CPS. Like mom borrowed nice shoes from like a neighbor and is telling the kid to behave himself. He's acting kind of defiant in the face of this, but they're trying to put their best foot forward here. I make a note of it while Noah's in there reviewing financial documents and stuff. The kid goes out and just starts hopping up and down in the bed of the El Camino, which is just sort of rude. But one of my favorite moments from this particular portion of the movie is the kid comes in and is like, "What kind of gun do you have?" And Noah pulls his gun out, drops the magazine, empties the chamber, and just hands the gun to the kid. She's like, "I don't think what you're supposed to do with children. I don't have any of my own, but I feel like that's playing it a little bit fast and loose."
Yeah, you probably shouldn't give him a gun whether it's loaded or not.
Yeah, he goes to hand it to him. He's like, "Wait, you go to a school, right?" He's like, "Nah, never mind. I probably shouldn't give you this." Terrible, but very weird. So while this is happening, we cut to Agent Baldy, who is tracking Noah's schedule for basically no good reason, which makes no sense because they explicitly tell you it's for no good reason in the scene. He's like, "Oh, he's up for promotion. This is standard procedure." And the dude who's doing the checking out, he's like, "Standard procedure since fucking when? Like, we don't do this." I don't understand the inclusion of that scene at all.
Yeah,
I got nothing for that.
And it's like they're supposed to be best friends. They say it numerous times that Agent Baldy and Noah Cross are like brothers. And
they're each other's closest friend.
And it just doesn't seem that way. Like Agent Baldy is the guy who plays him decides to play him so cold and uncaring that it is very much a like boss employee relationship.
And weird. Like Hugh Dillon. Yeah, Hugh Dillon puts like a little spice into the character to make him seem like kind of unstable, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's just bizarre and sort of disjointed.
Yeah, the way that he decided to play him, if that's the way the character was written, like it would have worked. He wasn't like a bad actor. He just made bad choices, if that makes sense.
So Ryan mentioned this. This is a good enough time to talk about it as any. I get some vibes that the actors, at least, and maybe the writers, tried to draw some inspiration from Cormac McCarthy works specifically, but
which just doesn't work in film most of the time. Like the only time I can think that Cormac McCarthy transferred into cinema well was The Road and No Country for Old Men. Every other attempt has been, oh wait, All the Pretty Horses is pretty all right too, but that's like a straight up Western. But yeah, like his biblical prose style just doesn't really work if you're just shoehorning it into a post-apocalyptic movie with a dude that looks like fucking Lex Luthor from the Super Friends.
And they don't manage to capture the bleakness that you get from shit like The Road, but it was clear that they had some aspirations to try and make an attempt in that direction, but nobody committed. Everybody shied off when they got to the edge of the jump, I feel. But anyway, the Wellers do not pass their deportation appeal, which does seem to be kind of par for the course. The appeals seem to be largely perfunctory in nature. Noah seems a bit conflicted by this, but the job's the job. However, before he leaves, the kid is up on the roof of the house trying to put a bird back in a nest, and he fails. Now, I do just want to point this out because it's weird and disjointed as well. He has traded out his borrowed fancy shoes for a pair of Tim's that supposedly he owns. Very clear product placement.
Clean ass Tim's too. Like
yeah,
they're not
dirty
they're not
at all. They look brand
shoes.
new. Anyway, he fucking falls off the roof. Okay.
And it rules. I love seeing little kids eat shit in movies.
Noah and his mother run out to try and revive him. Noah immediately jumps into CPR, I think, before checking whether or not the kid even has a pulse.
Yeah,
Which
just
is
goes right to it.
right
It
to
was the
CPR.
weirdest thing.
That's
He doesn't even do a full rotation of it before he puts the kid up and like slaps him on the back and he just comes back to life.
Yeah.
Yeah, he Fonzes him back to life.
Yeah, yes, he does. So, also, by the way, the bird doesn't make it. If you were wondering if that's the line for you for a movie, a bird dying, not terrible writing, don't watch this movie because the bird doesn't make it. Noah leaves, pulls over on the ride home and reminisces about fishing when he was a kid. I'll mention this now just because like I was confused because these flashbacks happen a couple of times. And the first couple of times I thought he was fishing with his mom because the scenes are kind of close up. You just sort of get a pair of boots, like kids' boots and an adult's boots dangling off of the dock. It is not his mom. And they don't address why or what with that. They set up a bit of a backstory for him and then just don't do anything with it. So
no, his backstory is fishing.
Sort of. But his backstory was like his fishing and his mom. And then like 3/4 of the way through the movie is like it wasn't even his fucking mom. It was just some guy. And don't give you any more information than that. So
we never see that guy's face, right?
No.
Okay.
In fact, the only time I realized it wasn't his mom is they're like, oh yeah, it was some guy my mom knew. And then the next reminiscent flashback had a dude's hairy arms.
All right. Yeah.
Clearly in shot.
I did take a look at that dude's IMDb, and I don't recognize anything he was in except for the TV miniseries adaptation of Lonesome Dove, which is a good book that I haven't seen the miniseries, but like he's been in like 5 things total. And I assuming that you don't really see him very much outside of like the art. He's like an arm actor, I guess.
Okay. So when Noah gets home, Agent Baldy is sitting in his dark apartment because when Noah pulled over and reminisced about fishing, he put in an order to delay the deportation of the Wellers. So Baldy gives him trouble about this, is why did you even do that? And he's like, oh, the kid has a recital tomorrow. No matter what happens next, that's a good memory. We shouldn't take it away from him. And he's Agent Baldy's like, you're getting soft. It's a little bit of a weird interaction that they set up with about 45 seconds notice, with Agent Baldy looking into his actions in the first place. But that's about the level of payoff you're going to get from this film. So now Noah is troubled by something the old man that he shot dead had said, which was he knew the truth. Very vague, nebulous, and slightly cryptic. But we get, again, disjointed scenes that are attempting to give you the idea that Noah has investigated or looked through some materials he took off the old guy, because the very next scene we get, he's sort of sitting on a bench outside of some sort of processing facility, and a garbage truck pulls out, and a guy in the passenger seat throws a matchbook out at his feet. Not a matchbook, a matchbox specifically. Noah opens the matchbox, and written on the bottom is the word greenhouse inside. So Noah goes to the only greenhouse in town, I'm assuming, and finds a sort of document package in there, which we can only assume sends him to another location, because unlike the matchbox box scene, we don't see him see another word, but he goes to a building with an elevator. And when he gets into the elevator, there's a guy inside, and the guy stops the elevator partway through its journey and has a little talk with Noah about this card that the old dude had on him that said never surrender. So this guy appears to be a member of some type of resistance group and gives Noah some sort of nebulous data drive. Not a data stick, because they have weird advanced technology post-apocalypse.
Yeah, it's like an RFID chip or some shit like that.
Yeah, some shit
that
like that.
Scans over the phone. It's
yeah.
So
the guy says, hey, look, like my brother-in-law and his wife or something like that went to New Eden and nobody's heard from him again. Take this chip. And so Noah takes this chip home, scans it, and goes, what am I looking at? Again, very cryptic. We don't learn what he finds out about New Eden. But if you don't think there's something fucky going on there at New Eden, this movie has not done its job, and it's been trying really hard to make you suspicious of this resettlement colony.
Yeah, like all of the not the billboards, like the ads you see are very reminiscent to, again, the person who wrote this movie or directed must have played a lot of Fallout because it's a Volt commercial.
But like, the reality is worse. But like, you should have already gotten the idea of what's going on here. They
I don't
just
know. They were doing some pretty fucked up shit in them vaults. I think I would rather just get burned to death. Spoiler alert.
I mean, some of them did get burned to death
Yeah, I
in the
mean,
vaults.
some did.
Like,
yeah.
there's like 25 vaults in each game, and each one is a horror story as to what happened to everybody who was there. So at this point, Noah sets back off to see the Wellers again. And when he stumbles on them, they're at the recital that the boy is singing in. They're singing, was it Amazing Grace?
Amazing Grace.
Yeah, they're singing Amazing Grace, and it gets to a point. They finish the first verse, the first verse of Amazing Grace, and Lucas, the kid, steps up to the fore, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's got a solo. He's been practicing. He gets up and says part of the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah. In front of a big American flag, no less.
A projected American
projected,
flag.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, no, doesn't he stop midway through and then like
he skips a line?
He does.
He skips a line and then they still clap for him.
Wait, what line did he skip?
What was it? It was I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. He skips the and to the republic for which it stands.
He just goes straight to the one nation under God because that's what matters.
Yeah, he skips the republic part. I mean,
maybe they don't have a republic anymore. Maybe that's what that's implying. Although that's giving this movie a bit too much credit. Even though I'll admit, I'm probably the dark horse here. I did actually enjoy my time with this film. It's not as bad as I think you guys view it.
I'll give them the credit for this because otherwise everybody applauded an incorrect Pledge of Allegiance, or they're like, oh yeah, everybody knows they ain't a fucking republic no more. I'm more willing to buy that explanation than the New America is the name of the city one. I think that was more of your generous reading reach than this one. This one I'm inclined to agree with you on.
Yeah, because I even at a generous reading, that's still stupid as hell, even if it's like one big mega city like the sprawl in those William Gibson novels. That's still kind of bullshit. I'll agree with that.
Is there another city in a country where it's just new in front of the name of the country? Like, you ever been to New France?
Yeah, you haven't?
I don't know, but I will. I'm going to do a little quick research.
Yeah, I'm curious now. So anyway, Noah is there to sort of collect the Wellers. He seems to have committed to preventing whatever is supposed to befall these folks. Agent Baldy appears to be scoping out on foot the Weller household while they're at the recital. Again, an element that does not make sense from a tactical or reasonable perspective in the film, but just fucking roll with it. When they arrive back home, Noah gifts Rachel Weller a can of coffee, which is apparently very rare and valuable at this point. He warns Rachel that the Bureau has marked them for deportation, and he cannot stop it, so they have to run. He sleeps outside in his car that evening, and then when he wakes up, he dreams about fishing again. And before he goes inside, he sees dust sort of rising behind the hills surrounding the household. So he runs in and he's like, they're on their way, pack your shit, like, we gotta go. And so after he tells them that, he runs back out to his car to get a semi-automatic submachine gun to help hold off the Humanity Bureau guys, I guess. But when he gets back inside, Agent Baldy is there holding the gun to Rachel's head. He threatens to shoot her unless Noah disarms himself, which he does. However, Lucas, the kid, shows up and shoots Agent Baldy with a BB gun. Then Noah and Baldy fight. There are bad fight sound effects here. Otherwise, I don't have a whole lot to say. The choreography isn't great. It isn't blatantly terrible, but the sound effects are bad.
It's also important that the kid shoots Agent Baldy in the eye.
Well,
that's really important. That is the best part of the movie.
I was going to get to that because
okay.
It's not immediately clear that that's what happened. he gets hit clearly in the face and he flinches. There's no gore associated with the BB gun shot, but it results in the fist fight between Noah and Agent Baldy. So Humanity Bureau, we cut back outside. Humanity Bureau vehicles are rolling up on the house, and then we see the El Camino sort of going in the opposite direction. So clearly Noah and the Wellers have escaped.
I do love that it's an El Camino. That's a great touch to me. I think that's a perfect post-apocalypse muscle car.
It's a great car in general.
Yeah, they rule.
I'm not a car guy at all. If they were like, we're re-releasing an El Camino, like a modern version, I would buy it tomorrow.
Absolutely. It's like a pickup truck, but smaller and stupider.
Wait, I'm just realizing this. They say the movie takes place in 2030.
Yep.
He says they haven't made a car in 30 years. What the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah, you're paying too much attention to what people are fucking saying in this film and expecting it to make any fucking sense.
I'm just thinking, I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like,
yeah, they set up a whole world and they're like, we're not going to acknowledge any of this with dialogue.
Okay.
So anyway, Agent Porter shows up in the house, and Agent Baldy is like handcuffed to a radiator. And this is where I had my jump the shark moment, because it's like, all right, Agent Baldy is not only cuffed to the radiator, he has electrical tape, 2 strips of electrical tape over a piece of bread.
I loved it. I don't know what you're talking about. That was not jumping the shark. You staunched that blood with a fucking piece of bread. That rules.
The funniest thing is my fiance came in the room. I was like, you got to look at this fucking scene. I'm not going to give you any context. You have to look at it. And she looked at it and she's like, that bread looks toasted. And I was like, I hope it's not. I think it's just like whole wheat or something, because toasting it would make it less absorbed.
Right. Yes. I mean, he's going to get a fucking infection from crumbs anyway. It's the most unhinged play he could have made for saving his fucking eye.
But how could he have even done this? Like, the implication is almost that they taped the bread over his eye before they left him.
Insult.
Don't know, don't care. It's still funny.
Or we have to assume that he could reach both a roll of electrical tape and a piece of bread from his restrained position. Also, this is the setup for a weird doesn't work thing where Agent Porter is sort of comedic relief as semi-incompetent, but they set it up in the weirdest way possible. The guy's like, oh, they left the handcuff key in the cookie jar. There's 2 jars in front of them.
The one is way too small. I can understand why.
Way too small for a handcuff key?
Way too small for a cookie jar.
Fair. That is fair.
Yeah, I mean, clearly it's going to be the bear with the Puritan hat that's going to be the cookie jar.
Sure. But still, he's like, it's in the cookie jar. There's 2 jars in front of him. The guy opens the one who's like, can't you do anything right, Agent Porter?
I mean, it's clearly like a sugar jar he's opening, so I kind of get that a little bit. It's just not very well established.
But they did you guys notice that too? Like, they use Porter as this weird sort of comedic lever, but not with anything that resembles a joke.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. He was giving me big vibes later on in the movie, because I think he kept saying the same word over and over. I forget what it was, but he was giving me vibes of the ghost of far, far Christmas future from I Think You Should Leave, when he just kept saying like, oh crap.
I missed that, but I'm almost willing to go back and rewatch it to see if those exclamations give me those vibes.
There's like
that would be funnier.
There's like a scene at the end where I actually think he might say crap like 5 times in 20 seconds or something.
It's that one scene from The Wire, but PG.
Yes, way shorter. They didn't commit to it as much, so it wasn't as good.
So while they're driving away, something happens to damage the El Camino's gas tank, but luckily it has a reserve tank, and using voice commands can siphon gas from the main tank to the reserve tank because that is empty. Nothing is ever done with this reference to technology again. It's weird, it's out of place, and it never comes up again. Either way, they have to stop for gas, and they stop at Brian's Gas, which is a great name for a business.
Which again,
is the guy with the crutch Brian? I couldn't tell. I'm assuming
he's supposed to be Brian.
They say cars haven't existed in 30 years.
They haven't
been made.
cars in
Yeah.
30 years.
How is this a viable business? And also, this is outside of New America. Why is his like payment card working? I mean, I know it doesn't. But the mechanisms are clearly there for it to work.
But
I did notice something here. His fucking phone makes the Halo cloak noise when he boots it up. Like, it's straight up just that sound effect.
So this is another scene where the movie cannot decide which angle it wants to play. So there's swipe cards on these two really old pumps outside of Brian's gas. They swipe it and it doesn't work. And Noah goes, "That's not a good sign," and smashes his phone. And then he goes in to see Brian. And he pulls the gun on him, basically threatens him like, "We need shit." Sends Rachel to go look for food and water inside while he coerces gas out of Brian's gas. And Brian takes him into the back yard and goes, "I was saving this for a rainy day," and pulls down a tarp, and there's a series of gas cans. He has two pumps outside. Is the implication that no, the car didn't work and those pumps have no gas in it? And
I
Brian's
think
gas,
so, because those gas pumps are fucking antiques even by like 30 years prior.
true.
Like those, they would not still have been using those at all. They would have
But they
been
had
like whatever.
swipe card readers installed on them.
Oh, so I guess it is just their fucking watch or played too much Fallout because it's got that retro futurist aesthetic to it.
Look, if this is your problem with this scene, I hate to tell you what's about to happen in 90 seconds.
My problem with the scene is, why did he ask Nic Cage if he's a good family man?
Because that was him coming over to his side. So after Cage holds him up for the secret store of gas at Brian's gas that
Which,
doesn't sell gas from the
hang
pumps.
on, because I don't even think we're telling this scene correctly. That happens. He then gives the kid a gun as he's trying to siphon gasoline.
It's the kid's BB
No,
gun.
it's the kid's BB gun.
Oh, okay. So
He gives him
said,
the real
if
gun
you
later.
If you see anything move, shoot it. The kid says there's a guy with a crutch. Is he coming this way? No. If he does, shoot him. The guy, clearly is getting mad because he's trying to steal his shit. Nic Cage then goes up to him and threatens to blow off his good leg.
Mm-hmm.
To which point this guy just says, then he goes into just gives him gasoline. And then we'll get into the next thing he does right now, probably.
Yeah. But I just want to reiterate, none of this makes fucking sense. There are old gas pumps with card readers. The card doesn't work, so they're assuming that the Humanity Bureau froze Noah's assets. Noah holds up the gas station owner, and he's like, "I'm going to bring you to the secret stash where I keep the only gas. Those pumps are just for show." Basically, without saying it. We don't get any context about the things with the gas pumps in the front and the frozen assets thing. It was like that we have to cover that the Humanity Bureau is on to Noah and has frozen his money, but he was never going to be able to buy anything with that anyway because all of the gas is stored in old-timey gas cans hidden in the back that Brian presumably doesn't sell. Regardless, after being held up for the gas, Brian asks Noah, "Are you a good family man?" And Noah replies, "I'm trying to be." And that is good enough for Brian because he goes, "You're going to need somebody to buy you some time," and then gets in his tow truck as the Wellers and Cross drive off, and then proceeds to pancake one of the Humanity Bureau cars, but not the one in the lead. So the Humanity Bureau has not been delayed fucking at all.
And this man just killed himself for a man who just threatened to blow his fucking leg off.
And his only working leg, and stole his secret gas that he didn't sell at Brian's gas.
All right, that's enough of this episode.
It doesn't make any sense. I love it.
I'm exhausted.
That's enough of this episode. I don't want to go over the Patreon or the Twitter. I just want to end this episode. God damn this movie. Fucking give us money, patreon.com/Nic Cage fight, because we had to watch this thing and I could have been doing literally anything else.
And engage with us on Twitter at
_pod. There you go.
But also, I always like every now and then follow Ryan at Himbofet because he watches good movies and that's all he posts. And they're not even good movies, it's just interesting movies.
Yeah, I was gonna say I watch some good trash, but I do occasionally watch fine cinema.
Also, the only real the only real legitimacy lent to the pod at all is Ryan, who actually does have experience with a number of films and classic cinematography. So
Yeah, no,
give him a watch.
Me and Josh are just like, did you see that? Yeah, it was fucking cool. And then Ryan comes in here. Well, actually, that comes from a 1941 French movie
Yes.
called I can't think of fake French right now. Where the director was Herman von Wiener, and he used this new shooting technique that's still used today. That and
I mean,
classically used it in his follow-up film Lady Revenge.
If y'all want an actual good French film suggestion, check out Diabolique. That movie whips ass.
See what I mean?
Yeah,
or,
the man is a
Sans
library.
Visage. That's a great one about plastic surgery gone wrong.
Yeah,
the man's a goddamn library of just films.
I just like to watch a movie.
All right. Yeah, join us next time when we finish running down this film. I promise there's really not as much left as you'd think. But we'll cover it all so you don't have to watch it unless you really want to.
No, but let me do a real Patreon because I just kind of sped by it doing a bit for being so pissed off at this movie. There's ad-free episodes up for $3 a month. You get our episodes without any ads. There's also other levels where you'll get us talking about other films that are Nic Cage adjacent, such as we did a couple for Halloween, which we did Shadow of a Vampire and then also did Nosferatu.
Those are fun episodes. You should subscribe and listen to them. Not enough people have listened to those, and I need more people to.
Yeah, and we're just gonna watch The Wrestler, I think, this week because Nic Cage is supposed to be in it.
$3 a month. That's less than 1 cup of Amish coffee per month.
Amish coffee is like $7.
I know. That's why I said it's less than.
Oh yeah, you're correct. It is less than that.
There you go. Thanks for coming by, listeners. Always, we appreciate you.